High Commissioner Draken Valor looked down from his crystal podium at the vast chamber of the Galactic Council. His shimmering scales reflected with amusement as he observed the human delegates beneath him. Their primitive environmental suits made them appear comically small compared to the towering Valerian architecture. The suits wheezed and hissed with every breath, a constant reminder of the humans' biological weaknesses. "And what makes you think," Bark's voice echoed through the chamber, perfectly modulated, "that your species deserves a seat on the High Council? You can barely survive in our atmosphere." The gathered Valerian dignitaries chuckled, their bioluminescent markings flashing in rhythm with their laughter. Some even expanded their neck frills, flaunting their superiority. Ambassador Roland Martinez straightened his back, the servos in his suit groaning under the strain. "With respect, High Commissioner," he began, "humanity has achieved faster than light travel in less than 3 centuries since discovering electricity. Our technological progress speaks for itself. You're just rushing to catch up," Bohr interrupted with a dismissive wave of his elegant hand. His robes shimmered with cascading light. "The Valerian Dominion has shaped galactic civilization for 50 millennia. We mastered quantum mechanics when your ancestors were still throwing rocks at each other." Laughter echoed once again, but Martinez held his ground. He noticed his colleague, Lisa Chin, gripping the podium so tightly her knuckles turned white. "Perhaps the High Commissioner forgets," Chin spoke calmly despite the tension, "that humanity has contributed vastly to biotechnology and artificial intelligence in the galactic community." Vark's secondary eyes narrowed, while his primary set maintained a condescending stare. "Ah, yes, your crude genetic experiments. Tell me, how many of your test subjects survived the early trials? We have records, you know." The Valerian elite guard shifted their ceremonial weapons, the deadly energy cores pulsing subtly as a reminder of their authority. The message was clear: the humans were tolerated, not respected. "The Council's stance remains unchanged," Vark continued, satisfaction dripping from his every word. "Humanity will continue as a protectorate species under Valerian oversight. In a few thousand years, perhaps we'll reconsider your petition. We must maintain the purity of our grand civilization." Martinez opened his mouth to object, but Vark raised his hand, silencing him. "This audience is over. Try not to damage anything with your clunky footwear as you leave." The human delegation was escorted out of the chamber by towering Valerian guards. High Commissioner Valur turned to his chief advisor, Nexus Raven. "Send a message to the Cultural Preservation Committee. Increase surveillance on human archaeological activities. They've become far too curious about our ancient sites." Raven's scales shifted in acknowledgement. "Do you truly think they could uncover anything significant?" Vark's laugh echoed in the now empty chamber. "Of course not, but it's amusing to watch them scramble around our ruins like ants looking for crumbs. And it's wise to be cautious with lesser species, they can be so unpredictable." Unbeknownst to him, a discovery was being made at that very moment, one that would shatter the Valerian Dominion's carefully crafted superiority. 3 months later, Dr. Maya Blackwood stood in the heart of an ancient Valerian temple on Proxima Centauri b. Her helmet lights illuminated walls covered in strange, flowing symbols. The Valerian guards assigned to monitor her team appeared bored, their scaled fingers drumming idly on their weapons. "Another dead-end human?" The guard captain, Sentinel Kraz, sneered. "Maybe you should stick to studying your own primitive history." Maya ignored him, her scanner analyzing the symbols. Something about them felt different, more familiar than modern Valerian script. "Nathan, are you seeing this?" she asked through her comms to her research partner in orbit. "These symbols don't match anything in the Valerian database." Nathan's voice crackled through her comm. "This is strange. The patterns match. Wait, no, it can't be." Kraz pushed off the wall and approached, scowling. "What nonsense are you babbling now?" Maya's hands trembled as she took another scan. Nathan, what's it matching? Sanskrit and Latin, Nathan replied, his voice filled with disbelief. The patterns are similar to ancient human languages. The quantum AI is losing its mind over the correlations. The guard captain barked a laugh. Your equipment must be malfunctioning. The Valerian language is ours alone, forged over millennia of superior evolution. But Maya wasn't listening anymore. She moved deeper into the chamber, her lights revealing more symbols. Nathan, these walls date back over 70,000 years, she whispered. That's before the Valerian Dominion even existed. Her fingers traced the curves of the symbols, their design strikingly similar to ancient human languages. Nathan, this isn't just a coincidence. These symbols, they're like the missing link between our languages and modern Valerian script. Suddenly, a shadow fell across her work. Kraz stood behind her, his scales shifting to a menacing crimson. This area is restricted. Pack up your equipment immediately, he commanded. Under whose authority? Maya demanded, backing up her scans to multiple secure servers. Our cultural preservation protocol, Kraz growled, his weapon humming ominously. Resist, and I'll show you how we preserve things. Maya gave a slow nod, feigning compliance while secretly sending one last encrypted transmission to Nathan. The guards escorted her team to their shuttle, their earlier boredom replaced with barely concealed hostility. As the shuttle ascended, Maya clutched her backup drive tightly. Nathan, get me a secure line to Ambassador Chin, she ordered. Start running a deep analysis on everything we found. Focus on the mathematical relationships between those symbols and early human writing. What do you think this means? Nathan asked as his fingers flew over holographic displays. Maya stared at the stars, her mind racing. I think it means the Valorians have been lying about their history. Those symbols, they're not just similar. They're the missing link between our languages and theirs. Nathan's voice was cautious. They'll try to discredit us, you know how they operate. Maya smiled determinedly. Let them try. We have something they can't explain away. Nathan, cross-reference every Valerian site humans have documented. Look for symbols or patterns they might have dismissed as meaningless. On it, Nathan replied. If we're right, Maya said softly, we're about to shake their whole society to its core. And I bet there are some Valorians who'd do anything to prevent that from happening. The shuttle's communication system crackled, and Ambassador Chen's voice came through, tense and urgent. I've just received your preliminary data. How certain are you about these findings? Maya looked down at the drive in her hands, thinking of the ancient symbols that seemed to link two species that had been told they were forever apart. Certain enough to risk everything, Ambassador, she replied. Certain enough to prove that the Valorians aren't just wrong about us, they're wrong about themselves. At that very moment, in the grand archives of Valor Prime, Professor Thex Nuru hunched over his quantum terminal, his scales shifting nervously between shades of green and gray as he reviewed Dr. Blackwood's findings. In the quiet hall, Maya and Karen spoke the words that had been passed down as a gift from their civilization's shared legacy. The ancient Valoran language and Sanskrit merged in perfect unity, making every quantum crystal resonate with harmony. Though separated, we held on to hope, knowing that distance would only make us stronger. In our parting, we left the key to our eventual reunion. When pride fades, when wisdom takes its place, when the children of two worlds speak as one, the greatest gift will be unlocked. The neural patterns above them began to flicker with new energy, filling the hall with a sense of anticipation. The Valoran felt a stir in their minds, a skill their species had long forgotten: telepathy. Professor Nuru explained to the amazed crowd that this gift could only be revived when both species learned to fully trust each other, when they acknowledged their common heritage. The High Commissioner's scales shifted to a pattern of humility. We believed ourselves to be superior when, in truth, we were incomplete. It took human persistence to reveal to us what we had lost. The hall erupted in a vibrant celebration, light and sound blending as Valoran and humans demonstrated the newly awakened connection. Long-lost knowledge flowed freely between minds now ready to share it. Our ancestors were right, Karen said softly. We needed time apart to grow, to find our own strengths. Humans learned creativity and adaptation. We mastered structure and precision. Apart, we were exceptional, but together we become eternal. Maya finished the words, speaking them both aloud and in thought, just as they had always envisioned. As the celebration continued, Ambassador Qin turned to Valor. To think you once mocked us for studying near ancient ruins. The High Commissioner's scales rippled with a hint of embarrassment. Perhaps that was the plan all along. Sometimes the children must learn humility before they can inherit their true legacy. Above them, the quantum aurora danced across the sky, its colors now visible on every Valoran and human world. The lights pulsed in rhythm with the shared thoughts of two civilizations, finally realizing that they had never truly been separated. With Dr. Blackwood's discoveries behind him, two members of the Cultural Heritage Committee stood still like statues, a stark reminder of the stakes involved. Committee leader Drax Torin demanded, his ceremonial armor shining under the archive's crystalline lights. Do these human claims hold any weight? The linguistic patterns are undeniable, Thex said, his fingers gliding over the holographic interface. The inscription they discovered aligns with our oldest texts, but more than that, the mathematical structure beneath both writing systems suggests a shared origin. Impossible, Torin snapped. The Valori language is pristine, developed in isolation as we ascended to greatness. Then explain this. Thex projected a 3D comparison between ancient Valorian script and Sanskrit characters. The quantum harmonics in these patterns are identical. These humans didn't stumble upon this. They uncovered something we've been concealing for millennia. Torin's scales darkened to a deep violet. The High Council will never accept this. Do you understand what it would mean? Everything we've built, our entire claim to superiority, would be exposed as a lie. A new voice interrupted them. Lyra Vala, the youngest daughter of the High Commissioner, emerged from behind a data column. Her scales shimmered with the pearl-like iridescence typical of her lineage. Lady Vala? Torin straightened immediately. This area is restricted by my father's authority, which I outrank. Lyra stepped forward to examine the projections. Professor Nuru, your analysis confirms what I've suspected from my own studies. We are not their superiors, we are their cousins. Thex nodded. The evidence points to an ancient connection, possibly even a shared ancestor species that developed these communication patterns before they spread across the galaxy. This is treason, Torin growled, his hand hovering near his ceremonial blade. The Gland Dominion has preserved peace for 50,000 years through strength. We can't let these humans upend everything with their absurd theories. Lyra's laugh was sharp, cold. Theories? Look at these quantum resonance patterns. The same principles underlie both Sanskrit and our ancient language. It's in our architecture, our art, even our genetic code. The humans didn't just find our past, Torin. They found their own. The High Commissioner will never allow this information to spread, Torin warned. There are already rumors circulating in the lower districts, young Valori questioning our traditions and demanding access to human cultural databases. Then perhaps it's time for change. Lyra's scales rippled with determination. Professor, How many of our historical sites exhibit these identical patterns? Thex displayed a galactic map with dots of light, marking hundreds of archaeological sites. We've dismissed them as decorative elements for generations, but when you apply the human linguistic analysis, Torin barked, Lady Vala, your father has ordered all research into this matter to cease. These findings will be sealed under the Preservation Act. No, Director. Lyra's voice carried the weight of centuries of aristocracy. They won't be. Right now, Dr. Maya Blackwood is presenting her findings to the Combined Science Council, and I personally approved her request. Torin's scales drained of color. You what? Did you really think humans were the only ones tired of our stagnant superiority? Lyra moved to the quantum terminal, her fingers dancing across the interface. Professor Nuru has already transmitted his confirmation analysis to every major academic institution in the Dominion. The Quantum Entanglement Network ensures that not even the Cultural Heritage Committee can stop it now. Torin's weapon hummed to life. This is the end of everything we've built. No, Torin, Lyra corrected, her scales glowing with fierce pride. This is the beginning of something new. The truth about our shared heritage. And if my father and his supporters don't accept it, they'll find themselves on the wrong side of history. Through the crystal windows of the archive, they saw crowds gathering in the streets below. Young Valori mingled with human scholars, their environmental suits now adorned with ancient symbols that belonged to both their peoples. The humans have given us our true history back, Lyra said quietly. The question now is whether we'll embrace it or cling to our comfortable lies. Lyra watched as more Valori joined the crowds, their scales shifting in patterns unseen for millennia. The truth has a way of breaking free, Director, even after 50,000 years of denial. Now, shall we go watch Dr. Blackwood change our world? The Combined Science Council chamber buzzed with tension. Thousands of Valerian scientists and dignitaries filled the crystalline amphitheater, their scales creating waves of color that reflected their agitation. In the center of the stage stood Maya Blackwood, beside Ambassador Jinwei, both of them in gleaming environmental suits. High Commissioner Darren Vallis sat in his elevated position, his expression unreadable. Present your evidence, human, he said. Let us see the great discovery that's caused such upheaval in our society. Maya stepped forward and activated her holographic display. Ancient symbols floated in the air, rotating slowly. 3 months ago, we discovered these inscriptions in what you call the Temple of the Old Wisdom. Your guards tried to halt our research, but we managed to finish our analysis. Graffiti from a dead age, Vala dismissed. Meaningless decorations. No, Maya's voice rang clear across the chamber. Watch this. She spoke a phrase in Sanskrit, her pronunciation deliberate and precise. The symbols pulsed with light. A gasp rippled through the audience as the ancient Valerian text responded to the Sanskrit vibrations, its quantum patterns synchronizing. Perfection is impossible, someone shouted from the upper balcony. Ambassador Lee stepped forward. Dr. Hawthorne, please present the genetic analysis, he ordered. New holograms appeared, showing strands of DNA. We compared the quantum resonance patterns in both ancient Carian and Old Valori texts with genetic markers found in both species, Dr. Hawthorne explained. The connection is undeniable. From her seat near the front, Kira Valori stood. Professor Juna confirmed these findings. Our oldest texts tell of a time before the Dominion, when our ancestors shared wisdom with others across the stars. A low growl rumbled from Draken Ar, a Valori elder, as his scales turned red. This is a human deception, a trick to weaken our authority. Maya calmly projected another image, a vast star map, marked with sites of ancient ruins. Every major Valori settlement from your early history holds these same patterns, she said. They're not just writings, they're messages meant for future generations. The chamber erupted into chaos. Young Valori began chanting in the ancient tongue, their scales glowing in sync with patterns unseen for eons. The elite guards shifted uneasily, unsure whether to intervene. Enough! Valoran's voice boomed. I will not let these primitive ideas undo 50,000 years of progress. Karen's voice rang out above the noise. We've stagnated, Father. Our art, science, and culture are all frozen in a lie of superiority. But the humans have shown us who we really are. Director Corin stormed onto the stage, weapon drawn. This ends now. Guards, arrest the humans and any Valori who support them. The elite guards hesitated, their scales shifting in confusion. In the upper tiers, more young Valori were speaking in the ancient tongue, their voices blending with the quantum frequencies resonating through the chamber's crystal walls. Maya stood her ground. Your own genetic records confirm it. Humans and Valori share more than just language, they share a common past. We were meant to find each other again. Listen to her. Professor Juna called, projecting more data. The quantum harmonics in our oldest songs match human Sanskrit chants. Our ancestors left us a map, written into our very DNA. Valoran rose from his seat, his ceremonial robes flowing. I won't allow this heresy to spread. The Valori Dominion stands alone in its glory. Karen moved beside Maya and Lee. We were never alone. That's the message our ancestors left us. The humans are not beneath us, they're part of our shared history. The chamber's crystal walls began to pulse, responding to the rising chorus of ancient Valori speech mixed with Sanskrit chants. The quantum resonance reached its peak, and suddenly, every holographic display synchronized, showing the message in both scripts. We seeded the stars. Maya translated, her voice thick with emotion. Apart we grew strong. Together we become eternal. Valoran stared at the message, his scales shifting between disbelief and shock. Around him, the elite guards lowered their weapons, their scales now synchronized with the ancient patterns. It's over, Father, Karen said softly. The truth cannot be hidden anymore. In a final act of desperation, Director Corin lunged at Maya, his blade drawn. Ambassador Lee stepped in front of her, but before anyone could react, a dozen elite guards surrounded Corin, their weapons humming. Stand down, Director! The guard captain ordered, his scales now shimmering with the ancient unity pattern. The era of secrets was over. Across the chamber, young and old Valori embraced the truth. Scholars quickly formed research groups, and ancient texts were shared on quantum networks. The barriers between species began to dissolve as their shared heritage came to light. High Commissioner Draconair watched helplessly, his authority crumbling before him. What have you done? He whispered. Maya met his gaze. We didn't do anything, Commissioner. Your ancestors did this. They left us a legacy of unity, knowing that someday we would find our way back to each other. Ambassador Lee added, the question now is whether you'll be remembered as the leader who tried to stop the truth or the one who helped build a new future for us all. 3 weeks after the revelation at the United Sciences Council, the city of Valora hummed with new energy. The once towering crystal spires, which had symbolized Valori isolation, now shimmered with a renewed light. Human scientists and Valori scholars worked side by side in hastily established research centers. Karen Valori stood on her balcony overlooking the city, watching as young Valori practiced Sanskrit chants with human linguists. Their scales shifted in harmony with the ancient rhythms, creating brilliant light patterns in the evening sky. Your father hasn't come out of his chambers in days, Professor Juna said, joining her at the railing. The Cultural Preservation Committee has been officially dissolved. Good. Karen's scales rippled with satisfaction. Their time has passed. Look, there below, Valori artists are recreating the ancient murals. Ancient designs adorned a public wall, combining symbols from ancient scripts and foreign characters. Children, protected by environmental suits, stared in awe as the special paint shifted in response to their voices. The council gathers tomorrow, Nuru said. Other species demand explanations. Some are calling for the Valerian leadership to step aside. Let them speak, Karen replied, turning as Maya Blackwood approached. Maya's environmental suit was now adorned with traditional Valerian symbols. We have bigger concerns, Maya responded, displaying a hologram of new archaeological findings. We discovered 17 more sites with synchronized quantum signatures. Each one offers new evidence of our shared history. The ancient Valorians didn't just leave us a language, they left us technology we're just starting to understand. In the city, crowds gathered around public displays showcasing the latest discoveries. Young Valorians had started to wear their scales in patterns inspired by human art, while humans incorporated bioluminescent features into their fashion, influenced by Valerian biology. The medical breakthroughs alone are remarkable, Nuru said, activating a hologram of genetic research. By studying our shared ancestry, we've already developed 3 new treatments for diseases affecting both species. Karen watched as a human delegation passed beneath them, their environmental suits now harmonizing with Valerian aesthetics. Some of the old guard viewed this as a corruption. They didn't understand that this fusion of cultures was always meant to happen. Change isn't easy, Maya noted, nodding to a group of traditionally dressed Valorians observing the scene in disapproval. Especially for a society that prided itself on superiority. But it's necessary. Karen's scales shifted, revealing an ancient pattern symbolizing transformation. The quantum archives we've uncovered together hold technologies we had long forgotten. The blending of human creativity with Valerian precision has already led to achievements either could have reached alone. A cheer rose from the crowd below as another ancient structure activated, responding to the combined frequencies of sand and Valerian speech. Its crystalline facade shifted, revealing hidden chambers filled with more ancient records. Your father's generation feared this would lead to the loss of Valerian culture, Nuru observed. But instead, it's brought our most sacred traditions back to life. Maya smiled, her voice muffled by her suit. The greatest irony is that in trying to preserve their artificial sense of superiority, they nearly lost the true heritage of your species. The Valorians were never meant to stand alone. You were meant to guide and be guided in return. Karen touched the wall beside her, feeling the quantum vibrations of countless voices, speaking in both languages. The ancient text spoke of a time when the stars would sing with shared wisdom. We thought it was a metaphor, but now, look above. The evening sky shimmered as orbital quantum arrays activated, responding to the unified language patterns and creating an aurora-like display visible across the entire planet. Each wave of light represented another piece of shared knowledge being rediscovered and reintegrated. Tomorrow's council meeting will be quite something, Maya said. Especially when we demonstrate how this technology can benefit all species, not just ours. Let them witness true unity, Karen replied, her scales glowing with pride not from arrogance but from rediscovery and the breaking down of barriers. The Valerian dominion was ending, but the Valerian people were awakening to who they had always been meant to be. Below, more citizens gathered as the streets filled with the energy of a cultural renaissance. The air hummed with quantum frequencies as 2 civilizations, separated by time but united by destiny, rediscovered how to speak as one. The Great Hall of Harmony, newly built at the heart of Valor Prime, sparkled with the combined light of thousands of Valerian scales and human suits. High Commissioner Drain Valor stood before the assembled leaders of many species, his scales now reflecting the symbols of acceptance and change. 3 months ago, I would have preferred death than to speak the words I am about to. Valor's voice rang through the hall. Our pride, almost destroyed everything our ancestors built. Karen and Blackwood stepped forward, moving in perfect harmony. Behind them, Professor Nuru activated the quantum archive display, filling the air with swirling ancient scripts. The humans didn't come to destroy us, Valor continued. They came to remind us of who we once were, who we were always meant to be. Ambassador Chen rose from his seat. Today is more than just the signing of an alliance. With the Unity Accords, we acknowledge a truth written into our very genes. The quantum displays shifted, showing the final proof that had even convinced the most stubborn traditionalists. A 3D map of both species' neural patterns, now showing identical quantum resonance frequencies that had been dormant in Valerian DNA for millennia. Our ancestors weren't just allies or distant relatives, Karen said, her scales aligning with the patterns in the ancient texts. They were pioneers who seeded both worlds, knowing we would one day find our way back to each other. Maya stepped to the podium, now permanently etched with both ancient scripts and Sanskrit. The final message we discovered explains everything. Would you like to hear it? High Commissioner Valor nodded, his scales glinting with quiet anticipation.